opinion across the board, apparently. Some people love it, some people can't stand it, some people are sort of in the middle. So I thought, after the game being out, 6 days, basically a week at this point, I thought it'd be an idea just to basically sit back and take an impartial look at the game and ask the ultimate question, which I think should be asked of all games with a £50 price tag, or $60 if you're in the States. Is it ultimately worth the money out of your wallet? So I got the game day one with a special edition, got myself a stick, fight pad. Unfortunately, I'm using neither for the purposes of this, because it's much easier for me just to plug a microphone into the base PS4 controller. But anyway, back to the point, I digress. Is the game worth 50 quid? Well, you boot the game up, get home, you're all excited. And I'm going to point out at this point, actually, maybe I should go back through the development cycle of this game. There was many online betas stretching back from, I believe, summer of last year. Basically just to perfect the netcode, and the first thing I'm going to say, and I'll try and show it a little later, you can watch my scrub-ass review, because I'm not the best at Street Fighter, even though I absolutely adore it. I am more of an MK guy, but once again, I digress. The online is absolutely phenomenal. From a gameplay perspective, there are some functionalities right now which are not there, which as will become a common theme with this first week look at Street Fighter V. It's a common theme. It's going to be patched in. Anyway, but as far as gameplay goes online, frames being dropped, nah. Anyone comes to you on a 4-bar connection on Street Fighter V and complains of lag is just being a salty little bitch. In my opinion, I've got fairly competent internet. 40 download, 10 upload, minimal ping. Done everything I can for fighting games just to reduce that. And I've had no issues with anyone on even 4 bars, 4 out of 5 connection, as it's numbered in this. No dropped links. If I've dropped anything, it's due to me being pressured and maybe just not hitting the button at the right time. So I've got no complaints about the online as far as gameplay goes. We'll get into the functionality a little later on, but single player stuff first, because that's the most important. Day one on a fighting game, of course, you learn your character, play the computer, for me at least, on the hardest difficulty, figure out a few things, go online and have some fun, get bodied, whatever. Sorry. Phone call. I'll be right with you guys. Yeah, they usually do that for you anyway. Alright, now there we go. I'll see you in a little while. Alright, Sorry about that. Well, that was just basically my my lovely fiance who puts up for some reason with my still childish love of beat 'em ups at 28 years old. The fact that I have to have them all on day one with specific controllers, and I collect things. Like I have a massive fucking Scorpion standee in the living room. I've got MKX promotional art on the wall, etc. She puts up with it. She thinks it's a healthy obsession. She'd sooner me do that than, you know, go to the pub and get blind drunk every weekend. Anyways, back to Street Fighter 5 and the first week of it being out. So basically, you boot the game up and day one you get the tutorial. Well, let's take a look at the tutorial. I have to admit, as far as tutorials go in fighting games, it is forced upon you, which is meh, but you can just quit out straight away. But if you're any sort of fan of Street Fighter, and certainly if you followed it through the years, such as myself now, there's only been one Street Fighter game I was ever any sort of good at that I would feel confident to go to the arcade and play over people, and that was Street Fighter 4 in its vanilla phase. Once it got to Arcade Edition, real life started kicking in, basically. But if you followed Street Fighter 4 through the years like I have, at least as far as, you know, getting the games, not even playing them competitively, just like beating arcade mode with all the characters, having fun, playing with your friends, etc. Tutorial mode is fantastic. It's a big throwback to Street Fighter Alpha or Zero, depending on your regional differences. So I'll show you guys the tutorial. Tutorial? God damn it, I can't speak today. Anyhow. You get a nice pose of Ryu there. And this was nice, especially in the later scenes that they still got Guken in as a non-playable character. I'm sure there'll be some people out there in the internet land that'll be so happy about not having to fight Guken potentially in this game.
Stop and think on your path. Ponder where you've been and ultimately where your fist will lead you.
Ponder my fist?
If you keep loafing around like you are, Ryu will get ahead of you.
I understand that, Master. I'm gonna work harder and become much stronger. Looks like you got laid out again, huh? Anyway, it's amazing how you always find great places like this.
Settings like this help me concentrate.
Oh, hey, you recovered already.
There's one thing I want to point out at this point. I think the voice acting's really well done.
No trouble. Would you practice with me a while? I want to take another look at my fist.
It's certainly not
That
terrible.
Master was
It's
saying?
not Resident Evil
The
1.
essence of the fist is the core of fighting, right? Sure thing.
Who would have ever thought that,
Let's get to it.
well, at least back then, that Resident Evil would now be the measuring stick
What's
of
wrong?
really terrible
Come over
voice
here.
acting. Anyway, this is the tutorial, so, you know, if you've never played a Street Fighter game before, this is kind of nice to be forced upon you at the beginning. But I don't really suppose there's many people who have not played a Street Fighter game, or at least in some variety. So anyway, you know, it's a nice tutorial. You just move closer to Ken. Basically goes over basic movement,
Let's see you
blocking,
try and dodge this one.
jumping. Whee!
Let's do it.
So as you can notice, the Alpha costumes, I mean for me at least, and I'm sure many people, that they saw them Alpha costumes and thought, oh my god, that's so cool. There is one downside to this though. I do believe, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, somebody out there, but I believe that you can't use them. Again, what will become a running theme with this whole look at this game will be, it is being patched in later. But for what we're doing right now, back to the tutorial mode, so yeah, basic gameplay has never changed. You've still got light attack, medium attack, hard attack. Different directions and normals will bring out different variations, so this wants to hit a light, so you just punch your square button basically. God damn it, my buzzes are terrible. Sweet. So yeah, it's a pretty, you know, I wouldn't say it's too detailed, the tutorial. It certainly isn't scary to look at for very newcomers to fighting games. I couldn't really think of another word to use there. It certainly goes over things so basic and in such a slow pace that I suppose even if you've never played a fighting game, after playing this tutorial, if you paid any sort of attention, you're going to have a basic knowledge of how Street Fighter works. Not so much, you know, footsies and stuff like that, but you're at least going to know how to throw a fireball and do an uppercut, which is it's all you need to get started. It's not as scary as games like BlazBlue or Guilty Gear, which, if you play fighting games before, there's a fantastic tutorial system, but if you're a newcomer, it's still really well done, but it's so daunting looking at all those tasks. It just explains the... No, it's really nice, it explains the properties of each move. Get over it, Ken.
Guard up, it's my turn!
So it's going through basic guarding. So once again, guarding's never changed in Street Fighter. There's 2 levels of guard, high and low. Obviously, stand guard beats high and mid attacks. Low guard blocks high and low attacks, but unfortunately, will not block overheads or jump-ins.
Good.
Hey, let's get back. I'm starving here.
No. I have something that I want to try out.
Something like what?
Well, I'm starting to feel something.
I have to admit, as far as you know, the initial of putting the disc in and seeing the tutorial mode when I seen it for the first time, I was really pleased with how they did it. So this introduces the concept of V-skills. Now this is a new function to Street Fighter. It basically gives every character an individual skill. So for example, Ryu gets the parry, which he obviously, well, everybody had in the Street Fighter 3 series. Ken, for example, gets a run which he can cancel certain normals from, which leads to some interesting mix-ups and throw setups. There's some other really cool ones. Nash can basically steal a fireball and use it to fuel his V-trigger. Bison gets a similar one where he catches a projectile, but he has the option to hold the button in and throw it back to you. All sorts of little things like that. And I do think it's an addition to Street Fighter, which definitely makes certain matchups feel less stale. You know, Ryu versus Ryu or Ryu versus Ken doesn't become fireballs trading off. You know, you can genuinely see some third strike Evo moment 37 parrying. I think Pikachu Akuma has put some videos up from the beta when he was parrying supers and it was nuts. Anyway, so I'm going to go into V-trigger now, and you know, certain characters you can cancel. I don't know if all characters can do this, but you can cancel off normals. So for example, Ryu. And then from there, if you've got full meter or bar, you can do Shinkura Duken or DPX, EXDP.
But this was fun.
So then, did you get a good look at your fist?
Good enough.
Ken did, right in his mush.
Learned that I still have a long way to go.
Just like me. So after playing that, any new player to Street Fighter should have no problem jumping in at least against the CPU and being able to, you know, run through arcade mode. Oh, yeah, about that. You may have noticed I've gushed about this game for sort of the last 13 out of the last 14 and a half minutes. Now we're going to get onto a point which is... The fact that this has been omitted, certainly at launch, is just... It makes me want to slap my head. Because I love Capcom. You look at the description, I'm not a fanboy, but I love them. The first game I played was Street Fighter, blah, 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 blah. And to see them making stupid mistakes like this, it's sort of akin to the cross-Tekken characters on disc, but behind a paywall fiasco. So your options for single player at that point, so you know, I'm looking at this as if you are super casual. You're thinking, oh, I've seen the adverts. Oh my god, the beta was awesome. I had fun with the beta. I'm gonna get it on day one. I'm gonna get in on the hype. Now, Capcom were very open, saying certain things wasn't going to be here, and that's fine. I understand the concept of them wanting to get it out early. You know, they do, you know, they do want to cater to the casuals, but also the pros. And I understand getting it out early, but no arcade mode is a serious omission. Now, there is a substitute. Yeah, you have the story mode. So let's take a look at story mode. I haven't been through it with everyone yet. So as you can see, it kind of reminds me of BlazBlue, which isn't a bad thing because I'm a big BlazBlue fan. So you pick your character and you get, you know, a number of chapters. So, you know, maybe this is the arcade mode, right? Maybe that, you know, right now we haven't got arcade mode, but you can play individual stories, which, you know, you'll get to do a sort of ladder and fight, you know, have cutscenes and fight different characters, right? Wrong. So you go into story mode. Again, I'm looking at this, you know, from a perspective of someone that's bought the game that maybe is super casual. Okay, so we'll go blah, don't we? We'll go Ken.
Think, we've always been like that since way back.
Yeah, 3 fights. So this is the main mode of the single player that's in the game right now. So, you know, we'll screw it. We'll play it, right?
Is Mel still out?
Because
like a light.
What is here?
Are you sure this is okay?
Is fantastic.
Should you really go to a party on your only day off?
But the point being, what is here right now?
Any other day I would have said no.
And again, the common theme is it's being patched in later. And I'm gonna, you know, towards me at the end of taking a look at this, I'm gonna talk about my feelings on being patched in later. I'm not a hater of it by any stretch of the imagination.
I gotta make
So,
sure I have more wins.
you know, here we have Ken. He's in the car. This is nice to see.
No matter how old you two get, it never
You know, more
ends.
emphasis on story. Like
It's been
the
like this
cutscenes
since
at the beginning of the stories in 4 were cool, but nothing really got
Fight well,
revealed.
but why do you fight?
No, it's nice to
Are
see
you just
this,
fighting for money?
and it's a nice continuation of the end of 2
Or
and
do you
all the
like
most
the
other games
attention?
where, you know,
I
boy
fight
meets
because
girl,
there's a
boy
man I
marries
have to
girl, boy
defeat.
has
Until
child
that day
with girl.
comes, I won't ever stop.
And
ever
even
since
25
then,
years later,
I think
Ken
I've lost
is still
count of
looking
how many
good,
times I've seen you two
and he still
fight.
wants to beat Ryu up.
Are you two really going to do this now?
So we got the really cool flashback, and
Check this out,
okay,
Liza.
so maybe this is the substitute for arcade mode. It might be good, it might be decent. So, you know, we're playing. Oh, we got full bar. That's pretty cool, right? Ah, tell him I'm playing on the PS4 controller. You know, I'm not going to blame the controller. That was my shit-ass execution, but... Oh, sweet! Oh, I finished it nice there.
Looks like I'm winning.
Oh, we're going to get round 2?
Win the next one.
Again, what is here is fantastic, but
Yeah. And that's exactly why
I kind of have to
let the butler guide us.
address the fact
You too.
that 1 round fights in the story mode. I mean, I reckon if I decided to do all the characters' stories,
At the party tonight.
Look, don't put up a fuss.
to be honest with you, with the difficulty of the CPU, and I'm making it look harder than what it is,
Guess I have no choice.
45 minutes? I mean, we know we're getting the full flesh story in June. Again, it's being patched in.
Haven't I seen you before?
But right now,
What? Who thought he cares?
I have to admit, story mode, what is here is good. It's fantastic. It's so much fun, honestly. But there's just not enough of it. And again, I mean, you have to ask yourself, depending on what sort of person you are you going to be an online guy? or are you just going to, you know, focus on single player stuff, etc.? You know, doing trials mode, which one of the things I love about fighting games is doing, you know, all the crazy combos in trials mode and actually learning the character there. Ah, damn it! Get down, Birdie. So yeah, we got randomly challenged by Birdie at the Kanzuki estate. As far as I'm aware in the story, he is basically, well, what can tell from his occupation, he's basically a freeloader of Karin's family, working the doors. And that's a... I know I said before about the voice acting, but that's a terrible English accent. The delivery is fine, though.
Welcome, Mr. and Mrs. Masters.
Thank you for...
Oh, to make
I was wondering what happened there. I thought the game crashed.
I can't believe
That would have been a kicker, right? So this is the final fight of Ken's story. So,
I'm sure to
I mean,
enjoy
even with
this. Like
messing
a man
about
at your
and just
prowess.
not really paying attention, what, 5 minutes? But what is here, I mean, is beautiful. I mean, I'm going to take time in this fight. I mean, just if you look at how far you can see out into the background, it's super detailed. The character models, I mean, they just glow beautifully. Apart from Ken's hair, which unfortunately is a victim of the video game hair syndrome. If I ever seen it before in my life. And if you can come over here. I mean, when this stage changes, which unfortunately we won't get to see right now, you know, the stage changes, it goes to night, it's more populated. What is here, guys? Again, like, it's a common thing. What is here right now is so beautiful. It's so good. Yet I can't help but, even with, you know, Capcom telling us that a lot of the stuff is going to be post-game patching, which is absolutely fine. In this day and age, I know it's not acceptable, but it kind of becomes standard business practice, and I've learned to deal with that fact. But when you look at what's not here on launch for your £50, you know, it becomes a question then of how much time are you going to spend playing the game online and wanting to learn it to a quasi-serious level.
Take you all to your guest room.
And I have a basic rule for judging a game based on monetary value, and it's £1 an hour, or if you're in the States, it's wrong. Well, I don't know. $60 equates to about £35. So say $1 an hour, even. You know, if I'm going to pay £50 for a game, I'm going to want to spend at least 50 hours playing it.
That's just who he is.
And I'm going to make a comparison here because
I'm going to do the same thing.
I'm going to take into account another game, another fighting game that's not particularly done everything right. It's done a lot to appease its community, but also because it's the WB, and now you'll know what I'm talking about. Of course, MKX. You know, they're kind of guilty of the same thing. You know, one combat pack. Oh my god, but then I'm going to do another combat pack. The key was with that game, though, and obviously they had the bullshit with Goro, where if you didn't pre-order the special edition Steelbook, which, of course, being the fighting game mark that I am, I did. They had the old fiasco. Oh, it's going to cost you like $4.99 or $3.99 or whatever to buy Goro, who's on the disc locked behind a paywall. I'm going to point out this point, though. While the online in vanilla MKX was, depending on your experience and your connection, I was sort of okay. I've got decent internet, so, you know, as long as I was connecting with decent, you know, decent latency players, terrible way to word that. But as long as I was connecting with people with decent connections, I was fine, and I was having fun with it. You know, inputs would drop every now and then, but that's just part and parcel of playing fighting games online. You've got to deal with that shit. But then I looked at what was there, and I sat down and I actually reverted the game to 1.0 last night, and I paid the same amount of money for MKX on day one than I did for Street Fighter V on day one. And I've got to admit, MKX from a day one perspective for single player absolutely blows Street Fighter V out the water. Not from a gameplay perspective, because I believe gameplay in fighting games is subjective. Whether you prefer the inputs of, say, Street Fighter, which is much more, is much more precise, but thankfully in this game, 1 frame links are gone. It's a minimum 3 frame buffer, which is nice, especially for online, because the netcode is fantastic, but you're inevitably going to drop a frame here and there. So, dropping a 1 frame link on Street Fighter 4 was heartbreaking, especially when you were doing a really awesome, evil Ryu comeback. Thankfully in this game, that's gone. But again, the gameplays are subjective, but just for what's there content-wise, MKX, oh my god, I never thought I'd see the day where I say NetherRealm have outdone Capcom. And it kind of does make me a little bit sad, but at the same time, I will go back to my previous point. What is here right now is fantastic. It's just a case that there's not enough of it. But hopefully, well, I don't know what the case is with arcade mode, but trials and daily challenges are being patched in March. The shop's being patched in March, which basically means you'll be able to buy costumes, and that's where you'll go to buy your characters, which is
this should be
a really, really good thing that they've done here. And I will applaud Capcom on this point. It is amazing. I don't know what the currency is going to be like. You may have to grind like hell, but you're going to be able to buy the DLC characters with your fight money. I think that's a really, really, really good business model there from Capcom. And again, it infuriates me so badly, because they could do all this, but they don't put a fucking arcade mode in for people that don't particularly want to play the game online. But this is the other main chunk of single player. This is the survival mode. Now, this is actually my first foray into it. But I do believe it's 1 round only again, which is a dire shame. It is nice to see them put in some of the throwbacks to the mode. Well, a throwback to the mode in the original the vanilla Street Fighter 4, which I did enjoy doing, like the trials in that game, time trials and challenges, etc. We're gonna take a little just a quick bash at this. Oh shit, I'm gonna hit crouching upon this. One thing I do have to point out as well, the character themes and just the music in general, all fantastic. The aesthetics, the graphics, all fantastic. The flow of battle, all fantastic. So, I think with this game, it becomes a point of, do you get it now? If you're like myself and you are going to spend time playing the game online, you are definitely going to put at least 50 hours in, because I think at any point, even if you hold a judgment that's sort of negative of a game, if you put 50 hours in, it's definitely worth your money. I would say if you're a super casual fighting game guy that plays with his friends on the couch, sits there throwing Hadoukens at each other 24/7, maybe what I would say is actually wait until June. You'll be able to pick it up a damn sight cheaper, and besides, there's going to be some salty ass motherfuckers that are probably traded in the game already in disgust, and you're going to be able to pick it up for £35, £37. And at that point, when you've got challenge mode in there, you've got trials mode, you can hopefully have an arcade mode, which, you know, Capcom were very open about, and I won't take that away from them. They were very open about the game's not going to be complete at launch. It's all post-launch DLC. But if you are super casual, and you're not the type of guy that's going to get a lot of enjoyment out of the online, what I would recommend is wait till June, because what you're going to have is, I'm assuming, an arcade mode, You're going to have trials to learn all the character combos, which I think is very important now in a fighting game. As much as YouTube's there and other resources, SFII, event hubs, which is where I go, it is nice to have it in the game. And it's actually one thing I will say that is infuriating, that Street Fighter 4 at vanilla phase on day 1 had trial mode for all the characters that were there. And that game wasn't £50, if I remember. I remember picking that up for 40. It was £10 cheaper and had a lot more single player content at launch. Now, for me personally, just to wrap things up here, my opinions are: if you're super casual, hold out till June. You're going to have a much more fleshed out game. You're going to have some of the DLC characters which are coming, I believe, as early as the end of March into April. And now, again, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the first one's Balrog, which I'm kind of excited to see how he's going to play with his B skill. And then you're going to have, I believe, Alex, which anyone that loves Street Fighter 3, I mean, I've just said it and I've got a chill down my spine because I can't wait to play as Alex. But the final two things we're going to take a look at going to be training mode and some of the online. In fact, let's get the online out of the way. Well, the Battle Lounge portion of online now. Currently, at the game in this state, there is no support for any more than 2-player lobbies. Meh, not going to bag on it. Vanilla 4, 2-player lobbies. Still no excuse for it, but if I'm going to compare to the last game, fair play. So, you know, you can just search for... I'm going to search for a lounge real quick. I'm probably going to get owned, but who gives a flying fuck? I don't get salty over these things. Victory settings, blah, blah, blah. Character, select on, please. Because it is something that irks me that there is no character select in the ranked match, but I'm not too fussed because I did play a lot of BlazBlue and Guilty Gear, which is a similar sort of functionality. So it's basically quid pro quo. That's probably the wrong word to use, but whatever. Let's play people on PS4 only. Let's have a look for some battle lounges. I'm going to go for someone who's in my league. I would like people with a decent connection. I wonder if we can put that in there. So at the moment, I don't believe there's any function. See, I have only played ranked match. I don't think there's any functionality for you know, connection settings, which is I'm sure it will appear at some point. Again, the common theme, it will probably be patched in later. I'm going to point out though to like anybody, I'm not hating on the game. I don't know if you, I wouldn't be playing it a week later if I didn't like it. So, but I'm just going to be honest. I actually had a conversation with my friend yesterday about this, and no, not. Oh, damn! I didn't mean to pick him, but it doesn't matter. I had a conversation with my friend yesterday, and we said games, not so much this game, but we actually were talking about Call of Duty of all things. And now we had a discussion if Activision did a business model, which would probably net them quite a bit more money in the longer run. Basically, if they were to say release Call of Duty single player for $29.99, and then have a DLC either add-on, you know, that godforsaken digital download, which I'm not a fan of. I like my physical shit, but you know, whatever. Or a disc version for say 20 quid. So they're getting the full money. I know it would probably cost them more, but the amount of people that would get the single player first and then probably go and buy the multiplayer, and if you had an embargo on trade-ins on the multiplayer disc, so it binded to a console, in the long run, gamers will be spending more money. But I don't know about anybody else, but if you spend, say if I had to spend £20, I'll spend £50 today, right, for example, on Street Fighter 5, and then I know in 3 months' time all the characters are coming out, so I know in 3 months' time I've got to spend 25. It's not as much as a hit. Now, one of the things we proposed that maybe what would have done, which would have appeased a lot of the super casual audience, would have been if they released it at first. Let's say, like, if they were very open, we're releasing Street Fighter 5 basic functionality on the store or whatever for £15-20. It's just going to have the story and the tutorial and nothing else really, you know. However, we all know that wasn't the case. But if it would have happened like that, I have to admit that would have been really, really, really cool. And then it would have gone like, you download it, but then like we're going to release the disc in 2 months' time with all the content. And it say if it was, say you spend 10-15 on the download, it's £30 disc, but you got like the additional story mode, the arcade mode, the challenges. Again, it's a common thing that I kind of say a lot. It's like these motherfuckers don't want to make money. Even though that they are making, obviously, a lot of money, they could make a lot more, being very honest. Now, let's put a fallacy in a sort of way, because they were quite honest. But unfortunately, not everyone would have been like myself and a lot of other people who were scouring news on it every day, blah, 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 blah. A lot of people probably just seen the adverts and bought the sumbitch. So I do feel sorry for the people that got burned, but if you did your research, you kind of be in the same boat as me, where you're like, okay, what's here is really nice, but, you know, it could have been a lot better. Oh, right, I'm really bad at this game, so you're going to have to bear with me. No, don't throw that shit. That's not a good idea. Nice. Oh, he power bomb my ass. I tried to parry it. That wasn't shit. Oh, that's game. Good shit, man. But I mean, as you can see, like the online is so much fun. Like, there is literally zero lag in anything that's going on. Like, any mistake that's being made by myself or my opponent or whatever, it's all down to our own error. You know. And that's one thing I will say, if you are planning on spending a lot of time with the online and learning how to get good, unlike myself, it's a really, really, really good purchase. In fact, I would highly recommend it to you at this point. But if, however, you do like a blend of a lot of single-player elements into your game, I would say hold out till June. So my final thought is, if I was to give it a rating at this state, comfortable 7 out of 10. You know? It's really, really good what's here right now. The online certainly gets its 6 of those 7 marks, without a doubt. The online is brilliant. But if you're not here for the online and you're just here for a good fighting game that you want to play with your friends and you want to unlock all the stuff and, you know, go through every character's story and, you know, have a good time offline, then, my friends, you're going to be kind of in for it. What you're basically going to find is that there's not enough there for your money right now. Hold out till June, you'll have so much of a better time, and you'll feel less aggrieved by it. Anyway, that's my final thought. Brilliant for what's here right now. There is nothing bad what's in the game. There's just not enough of what's good. Oh, and there's no arcade mode, which ultimately does make me bitch quite a bit. Anyhow, that's my final thoughts and opinions. Leave me a comment, whatever. I know about 6 people will see this, but who gives a fuck? And Blazing Blue signing out for another day, folks. Goodbye.